Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution of Buzzworthy Bumblebee Origin Autobot Jazz. Let's start off by taking a look at the packaging and then we'll get into the review. So of course up front we have Transformers on the side, we have Origin Autobot Jazz and Buzzworthy Bumblebee in text. We have a really cool artwork shot of Jazz in his Cybertronian hovercraft alt mode. We have an open window displaying the figure in the packaging. And of course up top we have the Transformers Legacy Evolution logo. On the side here we have several really cool shots of characters like Megatron, Optimus, Bumblebee, and RC. If we do turn to the back, there's several product shots back here, one of him and his robot, and of course Cybertronian hovercraft mode, and the Evo Fusion gimmick that I will show in this video, and he transforms in 20 steps. And again, we have another Legacy Evolution logo there. On the final side, we have a really cool artwork shot of Jazz in his robot mode and a really cool battle pose holding his harpoon gun. And that is pretty much it for the packaging, so let's now get into the review. Here we have Jazz in his Cybertronian hovercraft alt mode. Let's start off by taking a look at the details. Starting at the very front, we have some really nice silver for this entire grille section here, with some blue in the entire outer edge, and of course a very classic up symbol done in red, with some white, of course, for the main hood. We actually have some transparent blue plastic for the windscreen and the window sections, and this really cool kind of race car fin section at the back, mostly done in white. Would have been nice if there was some more paint apps, because as it is, it's a bit bland. If you do look at the back, of course, you actually have these really cool booster sections done in this kind of grayish purple, and of course we have some mech tech ports so you can attach some effects pieces and have them blasting off in a battle, which I think is always fun. And the side, of course, overall pretty plain. I'm not a big fan how you can actually see these exposed shoulder sections, so it would have been nice if there was like an extra panel to cover this up, because you can also see the form and of course actually that little gap there where the hand is. So again, just an extra panel would have been nice, but that's really my only complaint for this mode. And detail wise, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple, mostly blue and white, but I do quite like it. Very simple, very G1-y. Of course, let's now get down to one quick comparison. Here he is with the past Buzzworthy Bumblebee Origins figure, of course that being Origins Bumblebee, and I think they look really cool side by side. In my opinion, I think Jazz is the better figure. I think he's just more enjoyable. There's several reasons, and I'll cover those in this review. Of course, do let me know in the comment section down below between the two Origin figures, which one do you like more, Bumblebee or Jazz? And a lot of people really want a wheeljack, and I think it's possible they actually might take this Jazz figure and actually retool it into a wheeljack. Of course, that may be far-fetched, but I think it's possible, because I actually recently did rewatch that first episode of the G1 show, and their vehicles are actually very, very similar. Surprisingly, I did not remember that from, of course, past years, but I was so shocked. They're actually pretty similar. Of course, the design and the head sculpt will have to change quite a bit of that, but the alt modes are actually pretty similar. So maybe they could, or of course it could be a brand new mold. We really do not know. I'd actually really like to see an Origin Seeker, like maybe Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, because I do know we got the Tetrajet Seekers from the Siege line, and of course those are very war-torn, very modern, very stylized, but actually I would really like to see a very G1, simple, you know, no battle damage, no brushwork, nothing like that. I'd really like to see that. Hopefully we could get that one day. And of course, overall looking pretty cool side by side, and I will do, of course, a robot on robot mode comparison a little bit later in the video, of course, after transformation, but I'm going to put him off to the side for now. So let's now get down to his accessories. So the first one is actually this hook piece and this base piece. So he actually used this in a few episodes. I'm not sure if this is a specific reference to the first episode. I cannot remember. I'm pretty sure he did use it several times, maybe even in the 1986 movie. But of course, this is actually two separate pieces. That's actually mostly due to the Evo Fusion gimmick that I'll show a little bit later in this video. But this actually stores on the underside of the vehicle, which I think is pretty cool. So there is a port right there, and there is a post, and that just stores and tabs into place just like that. You just got to align that port and post up. It can be a bit hard. I have really big hands, so a bit hard to handle at times. Just got to align that up, and there we go. Yeah, a bit fiddly if you have big hands. I do, so it's a bit hard to get in there. I think that looks pretty cool. Actually, when purchasing the figure, I did not know that was a feature. I knew, of course, the accessory was included, but I was actually really wondering how is that going to store. And I think that looks pretty good. Very well compact. Of course, doesn't get in the way. It still looks pretty cool, and you can barely even tell it's there. As for his next accessory, it's actually this simple little rifle, mostly done, of course, in black. Also blast piece compatible, which I think is pretty cool. And this just stores on top. So use, of course, the peg or the handle, and there is a mech tech port, and that just stores like that. Of course, not the most compact or, of course, hidden storage, but of course, this is a very odd looking vehicle. It's a hovercraft, pretty much a brick, so I can easily cut some slack because I really don't know any other place they could have actually stored this. But that is pretty much it for weapon storage. So let's now get down to transformation. So what we're going to do is remove the rifle. So right now it's a bit hard to actually get the hook out of there. Of course, you could kind of pick at it and get out of there, but there's actually an easy way if you just wait. So I'm going to leave it in there for now. So what you're going to do is actually separate this entire back half here from the main front. So just kind of wiggle this side to side, and then of course it should start to separate some things. I do apologize if the lighting is a bit off because of course I have a white background with very bright lights, and of course this is a generally mostly white figure. So I do apologize if there's some scenes or certain views that don't look the greatest. Hopefully, of course, it does actually come across good on camera. So you're going to separate that, and as you can see, of course, there's quite a few connections and tabs. So there's tabs on this panel that'll go into slots underneath this section here. There's also, of course, a slot on the form, and there is a tab on the inside of this panel. There's also a tab here that will go underneath this, and of course, the same corresponding tabs and slots on the other side. And then what you're going to do is actually unravel this entire section back here, just completely extend the legs just like that. There's also some tabs underneath this section here. So as you can see, of course, there is a slot underneath the form, and there is a tab right there, and that's how that was tabbed into place. So then what you're going to do is actually split the legs in half just like that, and then you can open up the leg like that, and then of course there's a tab here and a slot right there. And again, I do apologize, there's quite a bit of white on this figure, so hopefully you can see everything I'm pointing at and doing. There's also a tab here and a slot right there. That's really just how that solidifies the connection of the leg, so it keeps in place. There we go. And then do the same thing on the other side. So just open up the leg, bring this panel down, tab that into place just to keep the leg locked into place. And you're going to go to the underside of the leg, bring the feet out, just kind of get your nail in there, and flip these pieces out to make the foot. And there we have the legs all done. Let me just kind of straighten that up, and I will move the camera up so you can see everything that I'm doing. And then what you're going to do is actually get these panels right here, just hinge this up like that, and then you're going to hinge this down. How this was tabbed into place, as you can see, there is a slot inside there, and there is a tab on this chest piece. And then how this is going to store on the back, as you can see, there's these little notches or kind of grooves on the side of the body. There's also tabs inside here. It's a bit hard to show, hopefully you can see, and this just kind of rests. I think they probably should have done more of a secure locking mechanism, because unfortunately on my copy, of course, this could be everyone's, I really don't know, but this panel here has a tendency to move and flap. There's really no locking mechanism, which is a bit unfortunate. So it would have been nice if there was like an extra latch or panel to keep this in place. But this base one actually does stay, so that's nice. And of course, just for the last few steps, get the butterfly joint, just move the shoulders back. Use the bicep rotation, of course, hinge the forearm, bring out the hands. Same thing on the other side, so just use that bicep rotation, get the hands, and then you can now, of course, finally remove the hook weapon. It's just a lot easier to do now because there's an open space than before. And then, of course, you can put that off to the side. I'll show the storage for that in a little bit. You're going to get the chest piece. There is a tab here and a slot right above that hinge that will tab right into place. Rotate the head around just like that, and there we have Origin Jazz in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have Origin Jazz in his robot mode. Let's start off by taking a look at the details, starting at the very top with a head sculpt. Really nice silver for the face with some blue for the visor, and of course some black for the main helmet section. So now for the chest. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were probably trying to make the chest almost look like or appear like it's actually the front car portion in his Earth-based form. Of course, he scanned that sort of sports car mode. I'm not sure what specific car he scanned. So I think this figure is actually kind of a mixture of his Cybertronian form and his Earth-based form, which I think is pretty cool and creative. I didn't really know they were going to take that kind of approach with this figure. I think it's pretty cool. And of course some transparent blue plaster for the headlights, a really nice stripe of red at the base and some white, and of course a very classic Autobot symbol done in red with some blue there as well, and of course some black for the shoulders, the bicep, and the hand, and some white for the forearms, and of course some more black and gray for the stomach and the chest region. Overall looking pretty cool there, and some black for the crotch, some white for the top of the legs. And I actually really do like how these back sports car fin sections actually stick out the back of the legs. People could consider it cable, that's understandable. I actually kind of like it. It makes the figure look very dynamic, and of course you can put him in some really cool dynamic poses. I'm not a big fan of the color because they're really just in white. I actually mentioned this earlier whenever he was in his alt mode, so it would have been nice maybe if there was like some red or maybe some blue. Of course that might not be cartoon accurate. I think they probably could have taken a stylized approach. I would have been fine with that. And of course in the back we actually have this entire panel section here. Again, I don't really care. It doesn't look that bad. Of course there's actually some really nice details like the transparent blue plastic, so it's not ugly, but I do have a complaint with this panel here because it really doesn't lock into place. It kind of just moves around whenever you're positioning the figure. figure. That's really just my copy. Of course, other people, they could have a really nice tight connection, but that I know of, there's no tab or slot or anything, so it would have been nice if there was like a panel to actually keep this in place, because as it is on my copy, it kind of just sits there and moves quite a bit, so it can be a bit annoying. And of course, the front of the legs mostly done in this kind of grayish purple mixture, pretty odd, but I do quite like it. And there's some more for the feet, and again, some nice blue on the sides, and overall pretty well designed figure in my opinion. So with the head sculpt, I'm actually not entirely sure if they just took the 86 Jazz and just put his head on this one, or it's a completely different sculpt. I really don't know, because I actually do not have the 86 Jazz. I do have several different versions of that figure. Of course, I have like the Prime Universe Knockout from Legacy. I also have Jackpot from the Kingdom Golden Disc Collection pack, so I'm really not sure. If you know, let me know in the comment section down below. But from what I've heard, I think it's a brand new sculpt. I could be incorrect. I really don't know. But of course, now for articulation, the head can look up and down, side to side. Of course, there's actually a butterfly joint, mostly due to transformation, so a slight move forward and back, of course, out and in, forward and back, bicep rotation, elbow bends, no wrist rotation. If you do move the arms out, there is a full functioning waist rotation. The legs can kick forward, back, out to the side. Of course, there is rotation at the top of the leg. There is a knee bend and an ankle pivot. Articulation is overall pretty good, pretty standard for a deluxe class figure. The only area that really could have been improved is, of course, the wrist. Unfortunately, there is no wrist rotation. That is mostly due to transformation, so I can easily cut some slack there. But everywhere else is pretty good for a deluxe class figure. So let me just quickly straighten him up. We can move on to his accessories. So he does come with several. I briefly mentioned and showed them earlier in the video, so let's go into greater detail now. So he does come with this pretty simple rifle. Again, a blast piece compatible, so you can attach some effects pieces and have them firing at the enemy. And this can be stored in either hand. I'm actually going to plug it in there. I think that looks pretty cool in my opinion. As for his hook attachment, you can actually do a really cool feature. I really like this. You actually fold the hand in like you're about to transform it. There is a port there, and of course you use the post, and that just stores into place just like that. And I think that looks very cool in my opinion. I actually really do like this feature. So as I said before, this is removable mostly for the Evo Fusion gimmick, but if you wanted to, you could actually attach a fixed piece here and then attach this onto there and actually look like it's firing. So you can recreate some really cool poses and some really cool scenes from the G1 show if you wanted to. So I really do like that. So now for his Evo Fusion gimmick. So of course, just put the hand back to normal, and then you can remove the weapon if you want to, just to make it a little bit easier. You can actually attach the hook to the blaster, and this actually forms his Evo Fusion gimmick. It's kind of like a harpoon gun, which I think is pretty cool. I'm not really sure if this was ever like a reference to a comic book or another show. I don't think he's ever used this, but I think it's still pretty cool and creative. So you can attach this into his hand again, and of course you can use this harpoon gun to, you know, go after some Decepticons, or of course attached to a ship and you know, fly after them, something like that. You can recreate some, you know, poses or a backstory if you wanted to, but overall I think that looks pretty cool. I think my only complaint is unfortunately there's not that much color. Would have been nice if like the hook was done in like silver, like gunmetal gray, just to spice it up, but that would really be my only complaint for the Evo Fusion gimmick. Unfortunately, whenever you do the Evo Fusion gimmick, this piece is kind of left off to the side. This is, of course, like the little base section that the hook is attached to, and there's no place to store it. Of course, you could have him hold it in his hand if you want to. There's some MechTech ports, but it would have been nice if there was like a secret way you could store it, like maybe on his back or like inside here would have been nice. But as it is, I'm probably just going to put it off to the side, which is a bit unfortunate. So some loose pieces you do have to be worried about. But now for one quick comparison, here is the chorus with the Origin Bumblebee, and I think they look very cool side by side. Again, I think Jazz is the better figure, so I actually have several reasons that I'm going to tell you right now. So I think he's more enjoyable in several aspects, in several ways. So transformation is definitely more enjoyable. If you have the Origin Bumblebee, you know what I'm about to say. So on my copy specifically, of course this could be everyone's, I really don't know, but he's very panely, and these panels on the side of the legs and the back, they pop off all the time. Of course you can just snap them back on. It's not a big deal, it's not broken or anything, but it can get pretty annoying considering, of course, Jazz, he has no problems like that. For me, no panels pop off, very smooth, very fun, as you saw, of course, in the transformation segment. Not hard or you know, annoying. I like to transform this quite a bit. This one, I do like both modes. It's a good figure, but I try not transform it because it gets pretty annoying when, you know, panels just pop off. You know, you get worried about losing pieces. So definitely transformation wise, this is the more enjoyable figure. And of course, in both modes, I do like the little, you know, hovercraft or kind of flying saucer UFO mode. It's fun, but there's quite a bit of panel lines. It's kind of kibbly on the underside. So I think the more clean and good looking alt mode is Jazz in my opinion. And in this mode, I do like this figure again, but there is of course quite a bit of kibble sticking out the side of the legs and the back. And I do have to say accessories are definitely better with Jazz, but mentioning that now, I think Jazz should have probably come with more accessories. So this figure actually comes with a blaster and a jetpack. He also comes with his energon rods, of course. You can now recreate that scene, you know, from the first G1 episode when they're stealing those energon rods to, of course, fuel the arc, which I think is pretty cool. But unfortunately, just getting to it quickly, he cannot actually hold those energon rods. And he came with like 6. And this figure only comes with, I would say, I guess 3 accessories. And, you know, one of them for a short while, of course, this piece really doesn't have any use right now. So I think he probably should have come with more, because considering both of these figures are the same price point, they're both $25, so it seems like this maybe should have come with like another accessory. And I think what they could have done is, if they included another accessory, maybe they could have attached something to this, so this could still have a use, of course, when you're using the Evo Fusion gimmick, because as right now, as I mentioned, there is no use for this. So maybe if it had a 4th accessory, this could, you know, attach to like a missile piece, a blast piece, or something to have a purpose for this, because again, as it is right now, you just put it off to the side. So those are really my grievances with the Bumblebee figure. It's still a good figure, of course, on its own, but comparing the two, I do think Jazz is the better figure. That's just my opinion. Please do let me know in the comment section down below, of course, which one do you like more, Origin Jazz or, of course, Origin Bumblebee. But that's pretty much it for the comparison, of course. Let's now get down to reverse transformation. So what you're going to do is, of course, remove all the accessories. Then what you're going to do is, of course, fold the hands in just like that. And then what you can do is actually rotate the head all the way around, so you can actually get this chest piece right here. Untab this, there's a tab right there and a slot right there. Hinge that up just like that. Then you can collapse the feet just like that. Then you can actually get this entire section here, unravel this just like that. And then you can actually get this piece, bring this back, and tab that into place. There'll be a clicking noise. There we go. And then you can actually hinge this section forward, and then we'll get back to that in just a little bit. You can use the butterfly joint, hinge the shoulders forward, and then what you're going to do is use the bicep rotation, hinge these out. So what you're going to do is make sure this slot is facing out like that on both sides. And then, of course, we'll get back to the arms in just a sec. Then what you can do is open up the legs like that, and then you can flip this panel out just like that, and then close this up. Do the same thing on the other side. So just open the leg up, flip the panel out. Of course, it can get a bit messy here and there, but still not as bad as Origin Bumblebee. So then, of course, just close this up. And then what you can do is, of course, tab the legs together. Make sure these panels are out just to get some added clearance. And then what you're going to do is go back to the chest, of course. As I showed before, there is a tab on this chest piece, and there is a slot right there. And that will just tab right into place just like that. And then just have these arms, just have them a bit spread out for now. And then you're going to, of course, use these hinges and completely compress and collapse the legs in. So just kind of wiggle those in. It can take a bit of force. And as you can see, of course, there's tabs here. Those will tab into the section right here. And then you're going to close these panels up just like that on both sides, just like that. And there are several points of connection. So there is a tab on this base here, and there is a slot underneath the forearm, and there is a slot there, and there is a tab on the inside of this panel. So now just tab everything into place just like that. Just make sure everything is nice and aligned. Tab everything in. And there we have the reverse transformation of Origin Jazz. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. Now for the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Evolution of Buzzworthy Bumblebee Origin Autobot Jazz. I think overall this figure is pretty good. Starting in, of course, the Cybertronian Hovercraft alt mode. I actually really like the transparent blue plastic. The entire race car fin section at the back looks super cool. I think it could have used some more paint-ups, because as it is, it's just white. It's a bit boring and bland. I actually really like the shade of blue they used at the front section and, of course, the mid section. I think it looks super cool. I'd say my only complaint for this mode is, unfortunately, a bit of the shoulder is actually kind of sticking out the bottom, and it's pretty visible from some angles, of course. From others, you can't see it as well. But it would have been nice if there was like an extra panel to cover that. But I do, of course, like how there's these booster sections in the back, so these are blast piece compatible, so you can attach some effects pieces and have them blasting off in a battle. And I do like the storage of the hook weapon. It actually stores underneath. I didn't know that when I was purchasing this thing, this figure. I thought, okay, that's a pretty cool accessory, but I was wondering how are they going to put a place for that. I was wondering that's going to be pretty hard to find a space or area to put it in, but it's actually underneath, and I think it looks pretty cool. You can barely even tell it's there. Of course, the rifle can store on top, which I guess is okay. I can cut a little bit of slack because it's a pretty odd looking vehicle. I really don't know any other area or space they could actually put a big rifle like that, and I think it looks okay on top. And of course, now for transformation, I do think this figure is much more enjoyable than the Origin Autobot Bumblebee, because that figure is good, but there's quite a bit of panels and they pop off quite a bit, so not as enjoyable, of course, as Jazz here. No panels pop off, very fun, not that hard. I think it's about 20 steps, so pretty easy and fun, much more enjoyable than the other figure. Of course, now for the robot mode, I actually really do like it. So there's a really cool detail with the head sculpt. I'm actually not entirely sure if it's the same as the 86 Jazz. If you have that figure, please do let me know in the comment section down below if they just reused the same head sculpt. I don't have that figure. I do have, of course, several versions of that mold, so I really don't know. I think from what I've heard, it's a brand new sculpt, but I really don't know. I do like the chest, though. It's super cool, so I'm not entirely sure if this is, you know, me just thinking too much into it, or, of course, if this was their intent. So the chest actually kind of looks like the front of the vehicle that Jazz scanned in the first G1 episode. Of course, once they arrived at Earth, you know, they scanned all their Earth-based vehicle modes to scan that really cool sports car. So maybe it's supposed to resemble that sports car from Earth. So this figure is actually kind of a mixture of the Earth-based version and, of course, the Cybertronian-based version, which I actually kind of like. I think that's pretty cool. And of course, everything else is brand new molding, you know, no Earth-based, you know, style whatsoever. Pretty plain, of course, mostly really just done in blue, kind of some black here and there. I actually kind of like how the race car fin sections actually stick out the back of the legs. I think it's pretty cool. Some people could consider it kibble. I actually kind of like it. Again, could use some more paint apps because it's kind of bland, just having this huge kind of white cage section sticking out the back of the legs. Would have been nice if maybe if there was like some blue or red, something like that would have been nice. There is like these little back panels on his back. Those don't bother me, of course, kibble wise, but unfortunately one of them really doesn't have a tendency to stay put, especially when posing the figure around, which of course posability wise, articulation is really good. I have pretty much no complaints. Unfortunately, there isn't a wrist rotation, but that's mostly due to transformation, so I can cut some slack there. But again, it would have been nice if there was like a tab or something to actually keep it in place, because it can kind of move around a lot. But that's really my only complaint for this mode. Of course, detail wise, or where everything ends up wise. As for accessories, he of course includes the blaster rifle that can store in his hand. He also includes the hook weapon, which actually really likes you fold in the hand and it attaches on there, so it recreates that really cool, almost, you know, gimmick where it actually looks like it's forming out of his hand, which I always really like when they do that. It would have been nice maybe if there was some more paint apps on either the rifle or the hook, because all of his accessories are black. Of course, I'm fine with, you know, a black rifle. There's pretty good sculpting. The sculpting is great. Just maybe it would have been nice if they had to distinct the weapons a little bit more, because his Evo Fusion gimmick, of course, is actually taking the hook and the rifle and attaching them, and actually forms a harpoon gun. And I do like the harpoon gun. I think it's a pretty good Evo Fusion gimmick. It's actually better than some other Evo Fusion gimmicks we got in the past. I think it's more creative. I don't think he ever uses it in the G1 show or comic books, so I think it's an original idea, which I'm all for. But again, as I said before, once you attach the hook and the rifle, all of it's black, so it's a bit bland. Would have been nice if there was like some gunmetal gray or silver or something like that. I don't know, maybe I'm just being picky, but overall I think this figure is really good. So of course, this isn't exclusive, it's a Target exclusive, but I actually did want to say, so I originally had this ordered on Hasbro Pulse. I actually still have it ordered because I think I'm going to have one sealed and one opened, probably. I typically actually kind of like to do that with exclusives like these. And if you're wanting to find this figure, if you weren't able to get on Hasbro Pulse, go to Target, because I got this guy from Target. This isn't my Hasbro Pulse copy. I went to Target one day just thinking, oh, I'm going to look there for fun, and there was like 9 there. I kid you not. There was like 9 Origin Buzzworthy Bumblebee Jazz. There was like so many of them. I was so surprised. So if you want this figure, 100% look at Target. Of course, typically I do have to say my Targets are typically not that well stocked. Usually they're very behind. I've gone to Targets recently that have had like Kingdom figures and some Siege figures. I kid you not. So if you're wondering like, oh, you're just lucky you have a really well stocked Target. No, typically my Targets are very not well stocked. Usually they're very behind. Usually they don't even have that many figures. So I was pretty lucky. So definitely, if you want this figure, I'd say look online for Hasbro to restock it, or look at Target, because again, as I said, there was like 9 of them there. And if you're looking for Rise of the Beast figures, still actually also look at Target, because when I found this guy, there was like so many Rise of the Beast figures. There was like 20 different types of Rise of the Beast figures. It was insane. Of course, I didn't buy any. I'm not really gonna probably collect any Rise of the Beast figures. That's just me. Of course, you might want to get them. Of course, by all means, please get them. But I'm just not really that into the movie live action figures. Maybe I'll give a few a chance, but I'm really mostly focusing on Legacy Evolution. And I probably will get that Gamer Edition figure. So just kind of a separate, story I wanted to tell you. So again, if you are looking at this figure, or if you're looking for this figure or Rise of the Beast figures, do look at Target, because there was so many the last time I went to Target. But please, of course, do let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this review, and of course, do let me know in the comment section down below between the two Origin figures we've gotten so far, Jazz or Bumblebee, which one do you like more? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I will see you next time.